Effective communication between partners is the single most important dimension of any relationship. In a recent survey of failed marriages, 70% of women and 59% of men cited poor communication as the major cause of their divorce. And although each partner in a successful relationship needs to have some interpersonal intelligence, that ability and willingness to really attend to the needs of others, sufficient linguistic intelligence to talk things out, all of these 7 intelligences for the multiple intelligences are really important when it comes to helping communication. So Tracy Cabot, she suggests that there are certain cognitive strategies that partners need to know in order to really communicate effectively with their mates. And within this model, there are 3 cognitive channels: the auditory, the visual, and the kinesthetic. So conflicts in a relationship are going to arise when one partner really fails to speak the love language of the other. And to establish this harmony, a person needs to use words that are going to resonate with his or her mate's strongest learning style, avoiding those less preferred intelligences. Let's look at some examples. So if you have a musical intelligence, or your partner does, some words you can use are, I'm in tune with what you're saying. A spatial person, I see your point. Linguistic, your words are loud and clear. Bodily or kinesthetic, I'm in touch with where you're coming from. Logical and mathematical, everything you say just adds up. Interpersonal, I can relate to that. Intrapersonal, I have a good feeling inside about what you just said. But learning to speak your partner's multiple intelligence language, you really need to keep in mind some points. That musical intelligence is going to emphasize those melodic terms and metaphors that are involved within music, but also includes sensory data like that environmental noise or animal sounds. Spatial language is highly visual, use lots of colors and detailed imagery. The kinesthetic language really needs words that have texture, like smooth, rough. It also needs words that suggest movement and action. Logical mathematical language is going to need those frequent references to numbers and quantities, as well as to reason and logic. Intrapersonal language is highly feeling oriented, like you want to say, wow, that was really sad. And interpersonal language tends to be more interactive and includes frequent references to other people. So let's look at an exercise to help us to really develop some of these communication skills. Take a moment. You want to set aside about 20 minutes. Before beginning, decide on what your most preferred or your strongest intelligence is. Also figure out what your least preferred intelligence is, or your weakest one, and ask your partner to do the same thing. Then what you're going to do is spend 3 minutes talking to your partner using words and phrases that are based on their least preferred intelligence. Afterward, have your partner describe the experience of listening to you. Did they feel pushed? Did they feel attracted? Or maybe they were neutral. Then you want to take 3 more minutes and talk to them using the words that really emphasize and directly relate to their chosen intelligence, and have them share their response. Then you want to switch sides and repeat this exercise. So through this exercise, we're infusing all of the 6 intelligences into what is essentially a linguistic-based expression. And there are many other ways that we can communicate that will encompass all of the 7 intelligences. But we really want to look at how we can communicate through talk, touch, reading, nonverbal, any way that you can to establish some kind of connection with your partner. There are many kinds of ways to communicate non-verbally, and so look at those non-verbal ways that you're communicating with your spouse, and it's going to really help to bridge the gap in your relationship, and especially if you have a verbal one. So remember also that intimacy does not have to be created only on words. I like this one example. It was about a man, and he said that his wife told him this: that she tells me every time I whistle that she knows something is bothering me because it's the only time that I whistle. So really pay attention to some of these communication skills and these cues. What kind of cues does your partner have? So let's look at some other ideas. So linguistic, you may want to share some books or writing notes or send letters. Where you're logical, mathematical, try some secret codes. I know that my home parents have a couple of secret codes that my father likes because he's a mathematical person, although my mother is a linguistic. You want to look at social cues and set up communication contracts. If you're musical, try singing or trading favorite music selections, even playing instruments. Spatial people like to draw pictures and send cards and use facial expressions. Your kinesthetic people are going to be very much into that touch. We call those touchy-feely people because they're going to enjoy gesturing and giving massages. Interpersonal, try the I feel statements. I feel you think that. You can also use dreams and telepathy. Interpersonal people is really active listening, taking turns, and mirroring. This slideshow is actually part of a course called Be Super Smart, and it's available on udemy.com. During this course, we're going to look at testing and how you can really discover what intelligences you use, your preferred intelligences, as well as your less preferred intelligences. And although Howard Gardner doesn't really support any testing, there are some ways that you can discover which intelligences come naturally to you. We also look at examples of historical figures and how they've used the multiple intelligences. We investigate the dimensions of each of these multiple intelligences, as well as explore what they are and experience each one, even if they are less preferred. Then, lastly, we develop and we create a plan to expand any desired intelligences so that we can create them and make something greater for ourselves.